But just how much of a masterpiece is this game? Let's find out.
That was 10 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, Spinny here, and 10 years ago today, ColourShed Productions was created, and what a ride it's been. To go from talking about GTA San Andreas on my old PS2 in my bedroom to, where my collection was only a fraction of the size it is now to, well, now it's just absolutely insane. And I want to use this video just to look at where my love of video games started, discovering content, creating the origins of ColourShed Productions, a brief summary of this 10-year journey, self-reflecting where things are with the channel and me as a person, and what I plan on doing in 2025. The love of video games began as early as I can remember. It all started with the Sega Mega Drive, playing it at my grandma's house. I think the normal routine was sort of saying hello and then just bolting down to actually play the Mega Drive itself. Some of the earliest games I remember playing include Columns, Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle, and Sonic the Hedgehog. There were a couple of other older Mega Drive, there were a couple of other classics like World of Illusion, Dynamite Headdy was another one, but those three were those were the ones that sort of introduced me to video gaming in general. And when we got a console in our own household, it got to a point where I would actually get in trouble for playing video games too much, from my parents, as we all did. It got as in my parents would hide the consoles, they would change the passwords on our PC, and they were actually strict in mature games in particular. Like Grand Theft Auto in particular was just a big no-no. They would try to hide it from me, or if I was borrowing it from a friend, they would immediately return it. I mean, looking back, I can completely understand why, because obviously you don't want the mature stuff. It was pretty outlandish stuff, but do I regret playing it behind their back whenever I could? No, absolutely not. It was only until I got a PlayStation 3 that, it was the first console I got with my own money. It was also the first console we got in the household where it was actually sort of at the height of its popularity, so new games were being released for it. It was only when my parents didn't really care that much, and that's when the collection on the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3 in particular, that's when it really started to take off. However, content creating in general was something I never really thought about. Or even just gaming news in general, because, we just had very bad internet at the time. We just sort of, or at least I would just sort of look on shelves and think, okay, what was, okay, that was the new game. I just thought that might take I'd take interest in it, basically. It was Grand Theft Auto 5. That was the first game where I started paying real attention to what was coming out, what gameplay features were going to be in it, what was the story going to be, playing between 3 different characters and going to the midnight launch. That was the first time where I sort of paid attention to different gaming news. The interest actually began when I was in a pretty dark place mentally. I was actually properly depressed. I felt like I didn't have a sense of purpose in the world, that no matter what I did, it really wasn't going to amount to anything, that the course I was studying, that I probably wasn't going to get a job out of it, so I sort of felt what was the point? And it sort of affected my interests. It affected the things that I enjoyed, but even video games. However, during that stretch was when I actually did sort of get into content, content creating, people on the internet actually talking about, what's actually good or bad, because thanks to the uni campus actually having good internet, it actually gave me an opportunity to actually watch watch YouTube videos on a more consistent basis without having to worry about the internet being too slow. And that's when I started discovering channels where they started talking about older video games, and that's when nostalgia for the older stuff, that I actually grew up playing on the Mega Drive, on the old PlayStation 1, 2, 3, that's when it hit me like a freight train. I just couldn't believe how I just remember thinking, those were such really good games back then. And some of, and the channels that I enjoyed the most, in particular, the ones that would actually end up becoming my biggest inspiration include Angry Video Game Nerd, obviously, Classic Game Room, its side channel CGR Undertow, Game Sack, Did You Know Gaming, the Machinima series, what was the machine? Oh yeah, All Your History of Belong to Us. That was also really, very interesting to listen to. Talking about how a video game was actually made and some of the fun facts, along with Did You Know Gaming, as well as, and also surprisingly, the Watch Mojo top 10s, or at least during the mid 2000s. You guys actually remember? I remember just how much that channel actually blew up. I mean, whatever happened to them? I honestly don't know. I remember getting a Super Nintendo just because of what I saw on the internet, because I just like, all this older stuff, as well as getting, repurchasing Crash Team Racing and all the original Crash Bandicoot games, just because I remember thinking I really liked them back in the day. And yeah, during that time I just thought, you know what? Why not actually just give it a try yourself? So yeah, around November 2014, I think October, November 2014, sort of when I just after I turned 20, I started writing my own scripts. Ironically, for games that I haven't even reviewed yet, like Conker's Bad Fur Day, Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle. But I eventually decided on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, because that's the video game I've put more hours into than any other video game I've ever played. Then I eventually got my own capture card on Christmas. I remember the first thing I captured was Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Via the Mega Drive collection on the PlayStation 3. I didn't know what I was doing. I had it set to interlace in the settings, because all I did was just booted it up and just started recording. And because it was on my old university PC, which wasn't exactly a gaming ready-made PC, it took like 45 minutes just to render 1 minute of footage. It was very slow, and it was a bit of a disaster. I was also injured from playing football, because I also played football growing up as a kid. Yes, I wasn't exactly the best in the world, but it was just a way to sort of stay in shape, because staying fit was also, even during that stretch, was something I really took seriously. Staying in shape and staying healthy, of course, which in a way probably prevented me from getting into an even worse position. But anyway, I digress. I was also on holidays at uni as well. I think I remember going on a cruise around New Caledonia as well, and I used that time to essentially write the script, talking about it. Also helped that, because it's the game I put the most hours into, that it made it a little bit easier to write the script, even though I never actually even recorded even a minute of footage by that point. But I was getting there eventually. I was on holidays, I had the time on my hands, so yeah, I used it to make my very first video on a YouTube channel, which would be called ColourShed Productions, which, ironically, I remember actually creating the channel during an ad break of the Academy Awards of that year. It was February 22nd in North America, but in Australia it's February 23rd, so technically the 10th anniversary is on the 23rd of February. And obviously the final product, as were the rest of the videos in 2015, were, were pretty rough, especially when you were using Windows Live Movie Maker as your editing software. I had a lot of swear words in my earlier videos. I didn't really know what my niche was. I didn't know what to expect. Obviously, you need to figure out what your personality fits best. And obviously, later on throughout that year, I realized that researching and being more informative was obviously much better, because I admit, it might not sound like it, just talking nonstop on this camera, but I am a very quiet person, as a lot of people will attest in the real world. So I just thought, why not just be that person? And obviously the research was obviously a lot more fun too. Basically, you have to start somewhere. It's like anything ambitious in life. You have to start somewhere. It took a bit of a while to get going. It took a year just to get 30 subscribers, and I think another half year to get just 100 subscribers. I got new editing software, got a new dedicated gaming PC, which, that made it easier to make videos with. In fact, I was able to release a review sort of weekly around that time, even when I was studying a uni course, which just that just seems unthinkable today. It could be because I didn't think about quality as much. I didn't really have the pressure of having so many viewers, and obviously being a bit less of a perfectionist. I was just sort of doing the research and just sort of putting it together while I was enjoying. I just didn't really think about it. It was just less pressure. But during 2016, 2017, I was on the grind, just making so many videos as I could. After reviewing a lot of everything, open world, racing, I think I get the feeling the racing part sort of blew up a bit, thanks in large part to Tourist Trophy World Rally Championship, the Touring Car Race Driver Series, known as the V8 Supercars Series in Australia. It's when I made videos about those games at that time, it's because videos for them didn't actually exist on YouTube back then. There might have been a gameplay video here and there, but not an actual review of it. So But yeah, otherwise, racing, open world, 2D platformers, 3D platformers, first-person shooters, even a couple of RPGs, as well as some console reviews. I really need to get back into it, the latter. But yeah, I noticed that racing and GTA reviews in particular, or just ones developed by Rockstar, were the most popular, so I thought, you know what, just go with that. I know I get this, what's this label of being a reviewer of racing games. The way I see it, me personally, I just consider myself a video game reviewer non-stop, and that Need for Speed, Gran Turismo, Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption, those just happen to be the most popular, which is fair enough because they're among my favorite franchises. But at the end of the day, I just consider myself just a game reviewer, really. But that's when the channel really started to take off, particularly around 2018. I always consider that the breakthrough year. I think it was the PlayStation 2, the actual review of the PlayStation 2 as a console. I remember releasing, or at least no, I went to RTX in 2018, Geez, Rooster Teeth. Geez, that really takes me back at the height of its popularity, and I got the VIP pass. That was probably one of the best weekends of my life. I remember going to that, sort of trying to promote my channel, and then releasing the PlayStation 2 review and going from 2,500 subscribers to 10,000 in like this in the span of a month. It was absolutely crazy. But yeah, it just kept growing from there and there. And even during the pandemic in 2020, I was just completely unfazed by it. I was able to just continue doing what I enjoyed, just keep going on the grind. It would have been nice to do the things outside the house, of course, but apart from my first 10-day break in like 5 years, like basically the first time like where I had like a 10-day stretch where I didn't think about my channel at all for like 5 years, yeah, productivity wasn't affected. And finally, in 2021, I finally got that giant number of 100,000 subscribers, which, yeah, that was honestly one of the most fulfilling and most satisfying. Like, that feeling of accomplishment is right up there. It's probably one of my biggest accomplishments of my life, in terms, along there with my, actually graduating from university, of course. But yeah, having that silver play button on display right there, it's always good to just have that reminder that, Spenny, you're actually doing pretty well for yourself. Although I will admit, since I hit that milestone, things have plateaued a little bit. Having a full-time job, basically having a life outside of my channel, and I mean, a lot of people say it, the algorithm being a bit of a hindrance, videos, the views on videos today, obviously they're not as high as they were a few years ago. There is a struggle to stay consistent. It can be a bit tough, feeling like all the things that you might be doing right, it's not getting the attention you feel like it deserves, especially after that stretch where you ascended. You kind of want that to continue going up, if that makes sense. And as you become more popular, you start to become a little bit more self-conscious. Like, do you feel like the quality is there? Do you feel like you're releasing videos on a more consistent basis? You feel like you don't want to rest on your laurels. Just to update on that point, I meant once you hit a good momentum, you want to keep that going to the best of your abilities. But at a certain point, that momentum began to wane, particularly after the Mass Effect 2 re-review that took over 3 months to make. It's the best video on my channel, but when the numbers aren't as high as you think they were before, you feel obligated to work harder, and therefore you risk losing enjoyment. And that also affects the content in a negative way, because you can tell from the tone that it sounds like I'm just phoning it in certain parts. Thanks to full-time work, exercising at least 5 days a week, and live streaming 3 days a week, which I'll get to, there are certain occasions where, after taking over a month, you need to just dig in and get on with it. Basically, it's easy to feel pressured to care about views rather than just enjoying the content itself, and you can only do what you can. It's one of the main reasons I eventually created a Twitch page, just to, actually giving live streaming a proper go, just because I wanted to actually provide something consistent, something you can actually watch every single week whilst not taking up too much time on the content itself. The one thing I massively regret is actually not creating that page during the lockdown, when it was probably the best time to do it. But what the Twitch page really has done is improve my increase my networking and interaction with the fans and other creators, like, actually showing, like, for example, actually showing my face for the first, like, properly for the first time since the first year of my channel, as well as just opening the windows on, entering other special events, actually getting creator passes for that sort of stuff, which is just, that was pretty, like, last year, like, 2024 was, in particular, was just absolutely overwhelming. That being said, what it's also taught me is there is a hell of a lot I need to improve on socially. Like, I didn't realize how quiet, and I mean, I kind of knew that I was always a very quiet and shy person in the real world, but it really started to elevate tenfold when, you know, trying to meet people at expos. I mean, I definitely increased the number of, the number of places, but even then I would sort of just walk around and that was about it. It also made me realize that I can be very insecure and jealous. Like, I'm willing to admit that. You know, on one hand, it's a very good motivator. You know, you want to make the best video that you can. It's like you want to show them, you want to be better than someone else. It's what drives us. It drives a lot of us to be who we are, if that makes sense. But on the other hand, yeah, and you know, my close friends who are probably watching this, they'll probably attest to this. I can be very unpleasant sometimes, and you know, every once in a while, you gotta, what's the word? You know, you need to check yourself every once in a while, and you know, not go back to that place where I was mentally. You know, before I created my channel, you know, when mentally I wasn't really, you know, that depression in 2013, 14. You don't want to go back to, you know, to that sort of behavior. But this is how you think when you're a content creator. You know, you don't want to slow down. You have this expectation to give everyone who's watching, you know, what they want. Yeah, not letting the pressure of the numbers and the content quality sort of get to you. Look, at the end of the day, know what you're good at, know who you are, find who you are, know what you enjoy, and just be yourself, basically. And obviously, don't be a dick. Another further elaboration on that, never forget who you are as a person when you start. Not a different one, but an evolved, more mature version of the same person, if that makes sense. It's like anything in life. You need to have a passion and probably a little bit of envy so you have something to fight for if you're gonna have success. And celebrate whenever you do have success, whether it's reaching a subscriber milestone, or in this case, a 10th anniversary, a video reflecting on why I review video games in the first place. It doesn't have to be a large party or anything, I mean, it can be if you want, but just something to say you've done a great job and get that positive feel-good fix, which motivates you to keep doing what you enjoy without slacking off. Obviously, for every single person, there's always room for improvement in some shape or form. I mean, take this video you're watching. I'm always constantly looking at my monitor on what to say and not looking at the camera. And you guys mumbling and repeating the same words like I'm only in my underwear in front of hundreds of people. I'm a hell of a lot more articulate when talking from a script, and writing it, I have a chance to think about what I want to say. But the last couple of years in particular, even my family and friends have told me unprompted that they've noticed I'm a lot more socially outgoing than I was in just the last couple of years. Not completely, there's still a lot to improve on, like the aforementioned insecurity issues that pop up every once in a while, or if I'm ever part of a group conversation, not one-on-one, then I'm guaranteed to say nothing nearly 100% of the time. But I think they were just proud of the fact that despite being autistic, a little bit on the spectrum, I have found ways to get around it by putting myself out there. With the things I've done for my channel outside of my game room, it's been a real test in shaping me who I want to be as a person, especially after turning 30 years old recently, and where I want the direction of this channel to go from this point out, even if content activity has waned a little bit. And not let the wild west that is social media affect my psychological well-being. Just being aware and having that sense of perspective is important, and that's what I meant by checking yourself. So here we are, 10 years after the YouTube was created, so, you know, what's next for ColourShed, at least for this year? Well, at the time of this video, I plan on going to TGX, or known as the Game Expo, which is at the Melbourne Exhibition Centre on March the 22nd and 23. If you use the code ColourShed, because I'm going as a creator, if you use the code ColourShed, you get 5% off your tickets, which is in the description below. If you guys want to join and meet me in person, there's your chance to do that. There's no DreamHack in Melbourne, which is a shame because the 2014 edition was absolutely fantastic. That is very disappointing. But fortunately, PAX Australia, also at the Melbourne Exhibition Centre, has been confirmed, and that will be at October 10th, 11th, and 12th. I will be attending all 3 days. Well, that is if my legs are, you know, fit enough to actually walk around on the 12th in particular, because literally on that same weekend, and I'm not making this up, ladies and gentlemen, I will be running the Melbourne Marathon. Yeah, finally gonna do it this year. I did try to run it. Some of you guys might already know, I did try to run it in 2023, but I ended up injuring myself to the point because I wanted to get a good time. And unfortunately, yeah, ended up pushing too hard, so I couldn't actually run it. But so this year, hopefully there's a chance that I can actually do it. It feels like unfinished business. As for the plans for, in terms of which games I'm going to be reviewing this year, I mean, well, if GTA 6 does actually get released this year, which I sincerely doubt, but if it does, I'm obviously going to put everything on hold. The second I get a copy of that game, I'm going to immediately start reviewing it. Probably even do a live stream straight away. But apart from that, I'm going to be spending the entirety of this year really just sort of completing the rest of the Gran Turismo series now that, you know, I've actually re-reviewed the original videos from 2015 to 16, as well as the Forza Motorsport and Horizon series. Finally get it out of the way, since I've been talking about those games since 2015 and 2018 respectively. I can't believe we're now at 2025 and I still haven't actually reviewed the entire franchise yet. It seems long overdue. Other games I'm going to be looking at, potentially Formula 1 games. I've already played a couple of them on the Twitch streams. I kind of want to look at the older ones and see just how well they've held up. And also, this might surprise you, ladies and gentlemen, but the 40th anniversary, and this, I think it's September 13th, the 40th anniversary of Super Mario Bros. On the NES is this year. So I thought, you know what, we'll do something really out of the norm, actually talk about a Nintendo game, and actually talk about Super Mario Bros. On the NES. It's the sort of game that I could probably complete in one sitting, and yet, because of its impact and its history, and how much there is to talk about, you know, how Nintendo first came to America, I think that would make for a very interesting video, ladies and gentlemen, so I thought, you know what, why not? I mean, so... Don't be surprised if it doesn't happen, but it's just something I really want to do. Really, at the end of the day, it's just trying to make a more consistent schedule, sort of try and get back on track, as well as build on other platforms, like, you know, like release, like all the live streams that I've been doing. The one thing I know about Twitch is that they usually delete the streams themselves after 2 weeks, so one thing I really need to do is actually create a YouTube channel, which I've already done, which is called ColourShed Live. The link is to that channel has already been, is in the description below. Basically all the VODs, you know, they all get deleted after a couple of weeks, so I thought maybe just, you know, put them all on YouTube so they don't get lost forever after a couple of weeks. And, you know, as well as release some of the funny moments on YouTube Shorts, you know, just, you know, do a little bit more, add a bit more content, different type of content. I just need to sort of create the basis, like create a formal intro and outro, and maybe even do a live stream on YouTube itself, as I already did a couple of weeks ago, you know, after I released that Gran Turismo 6 re-review. That live stream of Gran Turismo 3 was a lot of fun, to say the least. But given that I've currently got a full-time job, in addition to reviewing games and live streaming 3 days a week, I guess being consistent and doing all of that in one go is easier said than done. But I just want to say thank you, everyone, for being part of this incredible journey that has lasted over 10 years. I know it hasn't been completely smooth sailing, you know, there's been a lot of hard work involved, but this channel, this brand, has literally been my life for a decade, and it's everything to me. And, you know, it's given me so much in terms of the video games that I played, you know, video editing skills, you know, places explored, connections with others, and just keeping my head on straight mentally. Like, if I can go back in time and tell my depressed teenage self that you'll spend the whole of your 20s making game reviews and your channel will reach over 100,000 subscribers, you'll attend game expos all over the country, make a lot of friends, and also having your own house as well, I think that would cure his depression right from the spot, knowing that everything was going to be just fine. It's been a hell of a ride. And I guess from this point out, we just continue on. The show must go on, if you will. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell, support on Patreon, join the Discord server, follow on Twitch where I live stream 3 days a week, follow on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook. Here's to another 10 years. Spenny out. Again, thank you all for watching. You guys are the reason I've come this far, and I love you all so much. The support over the decade has been incredible. Looking forward to the next review and beyond.